Hi, I'm Susan Belsinger, and you're in my kitchen. I just came in with a harvest of basil. Everyone's basil is just starting to flower if it hasn't already flowered, so you want to cut it before it flowers and bring it into the kitchen and make pesto. And in order to do this, you're going to want to use it like a Genoa green, a green bush basil. They call it sweet green basil, Genovese. It's got lots of different names. But you want one that has a real balance of flavor. You couldn't really use lemon basil to do this because it wouldn't be the same thing as the traditional Genovese pesto. And so what I've done here is I've pulled the leaves from the stem. There are 5 basic ingredients in pesto. That's all. Pesto has basil first and foremost. It has pine nuts, okay, pignole. It has garlic, fresh garlic. It has either Parmigiano Reggiano, or you can use Parmigiano Romano. There's a number of different cheeses you can use depending where you are in Italy, but I really like to use the Parmigiano Reggiano. So it's a hard, salty cheese, and the stuff in the shiny green can is not real cheese. It's not going to do justice to making this dish. And then finally, but most importantly, is a good quality extra virgin olive oil, which is going to pull this all together. So that's pesto. Those are the 5 main ingredients. This is used on tomatoes in the summertime. It's put on pasta. It's wonderful to have on hand for so many things, and you can also freeze this. A lot of times I make this in my mortar and pestle. However, today I'm going to show you quickly in the food processor because most people have food processors. So we're going to take our harder products, which would be our pine nuts and our garlic, and this is our homegrown garlic. However, what I did is I peeled this, and in order to keep it from oxidizing and having all the sulfur compounds really break down quickly, I put it in olive oil until I could go ahead and put it in this dish. All right, so we're just going to pulse this for a second to start to break it up. And it's really important that your pesto not be smooth and homogeneous, but that you have little bits of nuts and you have little bits of basil leaf and little bits of garlic. So right here I had about, I would say I had a good 8 cups of basil. And you can make this in smaller batches, but why if you have this kind of summer harvest? So I'm going to go ahead and pretty much stuff all the basil leaves in the processor, pack it down. So it would be 8 cups loosely packed and probably more like 4 or 5 cups tightly packed. Shake this out. Got all those leaves in there. And now in order to make this go, I'm going to add a little bit of olive oil to loosen it, and then we're going to drizzle that in as we go to make an emulsification. All right. So we're just going to pulse this, and I'm going to drizzle in the olive oil as this is happening. There we go. So, see how quick that is? It doesn't take long to make it all. I am going to stir this down so I get the loose leaves that are on the side, and also so that I'm not compacting all the nuts in the bottom there. It's amazing how full that was and how much it goes down when we grind it. All right, so what you want is you want the basil and the nuts to be pretty covered with olive oil but not floating in it. So truly some people think that pesto means paste, but pesto actually is from the verb pestare, which means to pound. And so that's what we're doing here, is we're actually pounding or grinding. And we don't want to make this any more pureed than it is, because we need a little texture. So now is when you add in, I'm going to put a tiny bit more olive oil in here. You could add a little salt if you want, but the Parmigiano is so salty that we don't really need to. So we're going to stir this in right at the end. And every time I make this, as you can see, I don't really measure, it's a little different. We're going to give it one last little pulse here, just to mix that cheese in. And then I'm going to taste it to see if I need to add more pine nuts, more cheese, or more garlic. It's perfect just the way it is. So, what I would do now, I'm going to make a pasta salad in a little while, and so I would take the hot noodles and I would spoon the pesto onto the noodles. Now, because this is so thick, you need to add a little bit of the hot pasta water to loosen it up so it's not just in dollops. And I'm going to show you something that is one of my all-time summer favorites. Here I have my just cured garlic. I'm going to give it a slight little whack right there, and I'm going to cut the end off and peel it. And I've toasted this nice country style bread, and if you take your garlic and you rub it into the toasted bread, it acts like a grater, and the garlic actually dissolves into the toast, right? You can see it's going away. I only have little tiny pieces left, and I usually tuck them into the cracks. So this is called bruschetta, or fettunta in Tuscany, and we drizzle this with a tiny bit of olive oil. And at this point you could eat it just as it is, or look at these dead ripe summer tomatoes. How could we not put these on here? And then I'm going to spoon some of this pesto over it. And this is one of my all-time favorite summer quick foods. All right, so I hope you'll try to make some of this pesto. You could spoon this into a plastic container, or you could actually put it into Ziploc freezer bags and press the air out of them and freeze them and put your pesto up just like this. And so I hope I've inspired you to go in the kitchen and make some pesto. Bon appetit!